welcome to today's episode of the Group Therapy Podcast. Today we have Bryan Hogue, also known as Jack Shadow from Chiller Night Theater. He is a horror host and more. Tell us about yourself, Bryan.
Well, first of all, thank you, Paul, for having me on your show. I really appreciate it.
No problem.
I've been doing horror hosting as Jack Shadow. I look a little different when I'm in costume and my other persona. I've been doing it since 2008. My character's been around since 2006. He started out as a kind of just the feature character in one of my haunted houses. And the guests, he is the first character that the guests would meet. He'd give this little speech to set the mood and before ushering them into the terrors beyond. But and then 2 years after that, I started up a hosted horror show on our local TV station. And it was going to be a different host. I actually didn't want to, I wasn't going to be the host. It was going to be somebody else. And I was just going to like stop in from time to time. And the TV station, the board, they asked if Jack Shadow would be the host. And it wasn't a condition on whether the show would air or not. They thought it would be pretty entertaining. So I was like, wow, I don't know if I want to get all decked up, because it's the costume is quite layered.
Yeah.
It's not just something I can throw on or in 5 minutes. So but I did, and I've been doing it ever since. In May it'll be coming up on 14 years, I believe.
That's a pretty good run right there.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Here's a picture of him. I'm sorry. Here's a picture of Jack, if your viewers aren't familiar with him. The chap right there in the middle. So there he is. Oh, and then my wife Ava, she plays Aura the Witch, and then this is Samantha Diener. She plays Elle Von Knock, the vampire character. So we've been doing this for years now, just having fun with it.
Now, it's funny because locally we had Dr. Creep, the horror host Dr. Creep. Mm-hmm. And I remember him as a kid, then he kind of disappeared. And then I found him because the local public access television channel was running him. And then I ended up meeting his producer director, and then I met him, and it goes on from there. And it's funny because I'm finding out that a lot of these horror hosts are connected in some way, shape, or form. Like, oh, they knew this guy or this guy or this guy. Now who did anybody like your somebody you looked up to that inspired you to do the horror host or help with your character, I guess?
Oh, definitely. That would be Bill Chilly Billy Cardell from Pittsburgh. He used to play every Saturday night. That was such a big part of my growing up, as my family would sit around on Saturday nights watching this out of Pittsburgh. Bill Cardell, Chilly Billy, and his show was called Chiller Theater. Now I checked with him myself, mm-hmm. and I checked with the man himself. I said I actually went to his house. He was a guest on my show. He's been on my show. He was very supportive of what I was doing, and I even asked him. I said, "Hey, are you okay with me taking a name that's so," I'll put the logo up here in the background. Just you can see here that Chiller Night. This is what I use when I do my Saturday night shows, the background. But I said, are you okay with me using a name that's so similar? He says, Bryan, I wouldn't have cared if you would have called your show Son of Chiller, or he says, I wouldn't have cared. So he was very supportive of what I was doing, but he was my inspiration. And if some of your viewers might not know who that is, do I have a, oh yeah, I've got a,
some people may know him because he was in Night of the Living Dead too.
Night of the Living Dead, I was going to mention it. Yeah, he played himself, the anchorman in Night of the Living Dead. So yeah, Bill Cardell, very beloved resident of Pittsburgh, but I've just always loved it, and that was my inspiration for doing what I do.
Now, you got a pretty elaborate get up? You got the mask and the hat and the whole cloak and stuff like that. Do you ever regret going that far out for one? Or because I've talked to other horror hosts and they're like, yeah, I'm just glad I went with the hat, the sunglasses, or you know.
I don't. I guess I'd be lying if I said there were times where I kind of regret it, but I also know that there's a nice there's a lot of nice feedback from my viewers who love that character, and I appreciate you asking prior to this if I wanted to do the interview in character or as myself. And there were a couple reasons why I chose to just do it naturally, because I think we get a much more natural and organic conversation here with just me. But there's also, the costume itself. Like I said, it's quite layered, and it does take some time to get into. But the main factor was the voice. The voice is quite a strain on my throat to do the voice for that long. Now, I've done that character in haunted houses that the duration of several hours, but there's always breaks in between, the groups, and it's not a continuous ongoing conversation,
Yeah. Because I've had other people tell me that, have you ever been out where people have like, I know you have the mask, you have the thing, you do the voice, but you ever have people know who you are? Like just kind of like something you say or something, people get a notice from it just out in public?
Not really, because for the first 7 years, we kept the identity completely secret. In fact, even on the credits, you'd see Jack Shadow as himself. I didn't come out and let anybody know publicly who played Jack Shadow for all those years. Even doing the haunted house, we'd have people asking, and I'd have even reporters asking me to wanted to do a little article, maybe came through one of my haunted houses and came across that character and said, we'd like to do a little article. And I said, that's fine. They wanted to know who the character was. I said, I can't tell you. And I've missed out on interviews that way because they didn't want to take information from anonymous sources. I'm like, okay, that's but it really generated a lot of interest. It was kind of fun those first 7 years, and it just happened to be where I was doing somebody's internet podcast like this, and they knew who I was, and they asked about it, and it was my fault because I didn't say beforehand, hey, I don't really disclose the identity. But then at that point I figured, well, it's 2015, I've been doing this for 7 years, okay, let's just come out and say it. But I do kind of regret, I do kind of like to go back to those days. That was a lot of fun for me. But being recognized, not so much. I mean, I do a show, Chiller Chat, where it's just me interviewing folks, and in that regard, occasionally I'll be recognized, or my Saturday night pre-show I do, but nah, it's people don't generally look at me and there's Jack Shadow. I don't normally get that too much.
Yeah, because it's now with people with very distinct voices, it's people I've talked to other ones and they're like, I did not think anybody would recognize me because I'm completely different. And then they're like, they recognized my voice, and that's because you have a distinct voice. I could see something like that, but you say you do it with a voice, a different act, with a different voice. So yeah, it would be hard for people to identify you. But
yeah, it's a much different voice. And then after I chose that voice, that was one of those regrets at first. It's like, oh my gosh, why? But I didn't know at the time, this is back in 2006, I didn't know it was going to be a reoccurring character. And I really didn't know that it was going to be a reoccurring character on its own hosted horror show. So when I start this show out and I do this, good evening, welcome to Chiller Night Theater, you know, like that is not a natural thing for me whatsoever to be doing, especially for a long duration of time. But yeah, so they don't recognize my voice, you know, when I'm just like this.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Oh, no problem.
The cat decided she needed to come visit. Okay, this is here's where we start getting the questions I ask everybody.
Okay.
Money's no object. What movie are you putting on your show?
If money's no object, the movie I would put on my show, I guess for nostalgia's sake, I would love to play The Bride of Frankenstein. I know there were much bigger productions and obviously more modern, up-to-date movies that maybe upon a little bit more thought, I might give you a different answer. But just initially, I love that movie. That's one of my favorite movies, just because I love Universal horror. I love those monsters, but that movie in particular has a special place in my heart. It's always just been, I guess, nostalgia's sake. For many years, it was always my Halloween movie, you know. So I guess just because I love that movie so much, that would probably be it.
Yeah, I can understand that one. That's probably my go-to Frankenstein movie. That's the one that if, you know, because I have the box set with all the Frankenstein movies, I will go to Bride a couple times a year probably.
So. Yeah. Oh, it's a fantastic movie. I love it.
Yep. All right. Second one. Second. Money's no object. Money's no object. Who are you bringing on your show?
You know who I think would be interesting to have on the show, especially in regards to horror hosts, would be Cassandra Peterson, Elvira, of course. I think not only would there be a rich history, of course, of horror hosting that, you know, you could be able to have a really good, hearty conversation about, but just her character, personality in general I think she'd just be fun to talk to, you know. I think she'd be legitimately just a fun person to talk to. So I have to say Cassandra Peterson.
Cool. Now I've asked this to people too. Have you ever had a show where you've done the entire show, got the show finished, went to air it, and then found out it was not in public domain or one that you couldn't air?
No, I found out, you know, like after the fact on YouTube, like such has been the lament of many a horror host who've had their shows on YouTube. You find out after the fact, because you can go and you can check and you can recheck and you think you're okay, and then you get that notice by YouTube. So it's I never would intentionally like set out to do that, but after the fact on YouTube is when I have found out.
Well, I know that I talked with another host and they had an issue with I think Legend of Boggy Creek, because supposedly Legend of Boggy Creek was in public domain and then suddenly it wasn't in public domain anymore. And it was after they had already done the entire episode.
You know, there have been shows too that have a long history of being on public domain, like the Satanic Rites of Dracula, I Bury the Living.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that there's never been an issue in the past, but now they're being taken off of YouTube. So I mean, I don't know if that means like Satanic Rites of Dracula, if Warner Brothers has renewed the license. I'm not as familiar with that process, how that works.
Well, I know somebody did like the Christopher Lee Dracula box set. That probably has something to do with that. But yeah, there's. It's funny because I went before I started doing this and going back and doing my cartoon show and stuff like that. I had initially talked to a friend of mine, and I was like, "Man, I think about being a horror host." And then I I kind of looked into it. And I was like, man, there's so many good people out there. I was like, I don't want to be a bad one, so I would rather leave that to them. You're a good horror host. I would probably be a bad horror host.
I don't know. Because here's my take on it is if you're doing what you love to do and you're having fun with it, you're going to be good at that. I mean, that's if you love it, that's going to show.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and I think the viewers are going to have just as much fun with that because they're watching, because not that these are the most stellar movies out there and available right now. There's something about that these chillers, you know, that just hold a special place in people's hearts. The nostalgia. That's what it is with me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, some of these movies are hard to sit through, but it's just my love for it takes me back. And I think that's what it is with a lot of people, maybe, you know, my age and older, that it takes you back. It takes you back to a time when that was such a fun thing on the Saturday night hosted horror show. And it's the experience of it, I think, probably more so than the quality of the movie. To me, I kind of equate it like sitting around the campfire, you know, hearing the ghost story, you know, the one that you maybe heard half a dozen times before, but you're willing to just sit there. The atmosphere is just right, and you're ready to hear it again. You know?
Oh, yeah. And it's nice because a lot of, you know, I grew up on Horror Host, and a lot of them were, you know, quote unquote family friendly. You had the, you know, and it's kind of cool because sometimes I will just find a horror host and stuff like that. That's why I've found a lot of people on TV, or not on TV, on YouTube and stuff like that. And I've been able to post all that. Well, not post that. I've been able to show it all at the shop because I have a comic book shop. So I have my TV behind me, and I will just find a horror host and I'll just watch a movie. And it's nothing I have to shut off if somebody comes in, or,
Yeah,
you know, it's, and a lot of people, I get a lot of younger guys who come in, or like, they're asking like, what is this? Like, oh, you don't know what a horror host is? Oh, I'm going to teach you. And then I received it. And they're like, well, that sounds kind of cool. I'm like, well, do they make fun of the movie? I'm like, yeah, there are some who make fun of the movie. And then there's some who, you know, will praise it. And there's some who just kind of go with the flow of the movie. And if it is a hokey movie that pokes fun at itself, they'll poke fun at it. But if it's a serious movie, they'll take it serious. And
right.
yeah. So you know, and it's kind of nice that that's come back. It's something that I thought was gone. I thought, you know, horror hosts were a thing of the past, and then I discovered, like I said, when in the early 2000s, I discovered it on public access. And then I went to a couple horror conventions, and I was like, all these horror hosts there from all these different places, and I'm like, oh, okay. So I bought some DVDs off of some people, and I went home and I watched them, and I was like, oh, this is so cool. And then they're like, oh yeah, well, you check out our YouTube channel. I'm like, oh, you have a YouTube? So I started, and it just,
I have the same experience. I had the same experience. I didn't know that it was that there were so many of them. And when I started my idea, I honestly, like, when I was growing up, I didn't know there were other horror hosts. I just thought it was Chilly Billy, Bill Cardell. I just thought it was Chiller Theater when I was a kid. You know, I didn't understand that. You know, that was just it was a local, somewhat local TV station. And so I just thought it was Chilly Billy. And then I started hearing about Elvira, you know, back in the early 80s, like, who's this? I didn't know who that was or where that show was airing out of. But then and when I first initially pitched my show to the local TV station, I still thought that was a kind of unique thing, and it was for our area because we hadn't had that since Bill Cardell, since Chilly Billy. And that was back in that ended back in like the New Year's Eve of '84, you know, going into '84. So that's how long ago that was. And then I would do the same thing. I'd go to conventions, horror conventions, and I'd see all kinds of horror hosts. I thought, wow, that's that's really, it's kind of neat that to think that, because some of them are pretty young yet,
Yeah.
you know, to think that, wow, they've taken an interest in these old movies. That's pretty neat, you know, I think.
Yeah, it's weird because, you know, I'm finding I've been interviewing some people. Well, there's a lot of them around my age, you know, 40s and stuff like that. And then I'm finding a couple of these, and they're like, oh, they're in their 30s. Oh, they're late 20s. I'm like, wow, how did you find out about it? And they're like, oh, our parents, or, you know,
Yeah.
they were connected to, or they were actually connected to a horror host in some way, shape, or form. Like it was their uncle or a relative or a friend of the family or something like that. I'm like, well, that's kind of
Yeah.
cool too. So,
Well, when you mentioned about the family friendly thing, and like, honestly, when I first started, like back in 2008, I over just thrown, you know, the usual suspects, you know, the usual public domain movies.
mhm,
And I want, of course, you want to, you know, hit Vincent Price and the big names of Peter Cushing, Christopher Lee, but anything you can get with public domain. But it never occurred to me, like, I wasn't really thinking family friendly. I kind of was, like, I didn't want to
mhm,
go out of my way to put anything, you know, indecent on. However, it really hit me, it really struck me later that year. I started it up in May of 2008, and then later on in October, when I was having my haunted house, I would get these families coming through my haunted house in the first room,
mhm.
and there'd be, you know, parents with their little kids, and they'd be there, oh, little Sally, there's Jack, you know, what are you playing you know, tomorrow night there, Jack? And I was actually unaware that there were that many kids watching the show, and one of them gave me a little frame of they drew a little like heart frame around the picture and put a picture of me. They blew up a picture of me from, I guess, off of MySpace at the time or something. And I just, like, I was kind of surprised by that. And so, you know, I would always make sure my movies, you know, the show was family friendly. It might be an innuendo, that might be the Simpsons level of, you know, wink and a nod here and there, but otherwise it was always something I wanted. I wanted my experience to be shared, you know, of me when I was growing up, sitting around the TV with my parents watching, you know, chiller theater. And so I kind of wanted to recreate that. And but that was a little strange for me. I didn't realize there was that many kids that was watching. And so Jack Shadow, on some occasion, would do little magic tricks and stuff in between, you know, during his segment. Something that I it was catered more toward the kids watching, you know.
Yeah. You said you had the haunted house. Now, how long are you still running the haunted house, or is that kind of gone long? So Jack Shadow's still out there going to the haunted house? Cool.
Yeah. I've done several of them. I've done, let's see, I'm on my third haunt, as far as um I moved. My latest one is because I moved from the area that I used to live in, not far, about 30 miles, but, you know, so I started one up here locally several years back, and introduced this new community to Jack Shadow and the Chiller Night Theater, you know. And I always put in there, you know, Chiller Night Theater presents, you know, the Harrisville Haunted House, or the, you know, it was before it was the Dark Domain, the House of Terror. And like that way it gets them to look into, what's this Chiller Night Theater, you know, what's this character on. So that was my thing, was haunted houses. And then from that, the character evolved into a horror host.
You're like the third one I've interviewed that's how their horror host came about. So now, did you ever have like a proto Jack? Oh, go ahead. I see you were gonna say something.
No. What was the question? I have what now?
Did you ever have like a proto Jack before, or was Jack fully formed when you started doing it, or did you have like a you know, like early stages?
It's weird. No, he was fully, I guess, developed character wise right out the gate. And it was maybe it's stuff that I've collected through my childhood. I don't know, but there were certain ways that he would talk. And I didn't want to give him like an outright English accent or nothing, but I wanted there to be a little bit of a slant on his accent to where you didn't think he was from around here necessarily, because I wanted to kind of combine our traditional American Halloween look and feel to the Victorian look of the horror gentleman of England. And I kind of mixed that with the different characters. Like, I'd watch different characters on TV, like V for Vendetta, and certain ways that, grandiose mannerisms that I talk a lot with my hands, but of course they're embellished and everything when I'm Jack Shadow. He's quite a showman, kind of the carnival barker character. And so no, he was just, the only thing that changed for the hosted horror show was a little bit more of quite a bit more of a comedic turn for him, because I've even after I started doing the horror hosting, I've had people coming in expecting that character to be like they're seeing on TV, and it's like I had like, you're creepier and you're on the show, because it started out, it was just a creepy, very uncomfortable character to have in your personal space, and it was all intentional with the down to the eyes and the manner in which he was moving around the room to creep the people out. And then now, over the years, he has. I think there's a good balance, because when people come in, they do expect to see the host as well as that the Sam Hain gatekeeper character that he plays. So
now, how many people work on your show? You've got your wife and I missed the name. I forgot the name.
Samantha Diener. She plays the vampire character Elva Knock. That was it. I mean, over the years we've had character or two that have come and gone, and we have Walter the zombie, who's always the off-screen character who Jack might do some mocking, or maybe there's a little bit of a feedback, but a lot of the times it is just me doing it. Now, since I've done the show, if you ever watch Show Night Theater or see some of them on YouTube, you notice differences in the set and the quality. But now, since I've been with Stream TV since fall of 2017, all the stuff that we do in the TV studio is a lot nicer than what I've done in the past. See, when I first started out, I had like a little crew to help me, and we were doing the very early shows. We were doing the hosted horror show. We did chiller chat right away. And who's your buddy there? Who is that? That
is my wife's dog, Abby.
Abby. I had a dog named Abby once.
Chilling out over here. She is wanting something. What do you want? I don't have anything. Okay.
Hi, Abby.
Say hi. She's super lovable. And then I have
she looks friendly.
This one's mine.
No, who's that?
This is Lulu.
Lulu and Abby. Okay. Yep. Oh, they're cute.
They're still getting used to each other. Oh, hush. We just got Lou not too long ago, and we've had Abby for a couple years, and Lou's only been here with us for about a month. So
okay.
She still gets what? You ready? Hold on 1 second. Let's.
Well, what I was saying is when the show, when I first started the show, there was like a little crew. You were asking me about that. Follow up to that. There was a little crew, and we were doing. Honestly, it was a very ambitious endeavor. I mean, we had the movie, the host, the horror host. We had a co-host. We had So we're coming up with, skits, of course. And we had musical guests.
Ooh.
And we had an interview segment called Chiller Chat, who I've had, Tom Savini on Chiller Chat. I've had several ghost investigation teams on, and we go out and actually, go on site with them to the various locations. I've had Russ Striner, John Russo. I've had Gary Striner, Russ's brother, who worked on the production of Night of the Living Dead. John, and I've had Jim Crott, the helicopter zombie from Dawn of the Dead. I've had my favorite wrestler growing up, Bill Eadie, who was the Masked Superstar. This guy right here. I actually got to have him on my show, and we were showing one night one of the Mexican wrestling movies, with the master, El Santo, and I had him on. And he gave me, I had this sitting here so I could show this. He gave me one of his masks, which is kind of cool. This is very cool, actually. I mean, but I do Chiller Chat. I'm myself when I do Chiller Chat. But I've that became its own show back in 2017. But we were doing all kinds of stuff in those early years, and then I was just for many years doing it just on my own, and then here we are. I'm still doing it.
Yeah,
so.
Like I said, I've got respect for people who would either and it's funny because I've got respect for horror hosts, period. It's the fact that you guys are doing what you love, getting out there, putting these shows together. And, I know some of them, I've talked to some, they're like, it's a shoestring budget, you're working with, next to nothing, or, you're doing it all yourself. Or if you do have a crew, it's literally like friends and family. And I was like, but I have nothing but respect for all you guys, no matter how you're doing it. That the fact that you're just doing it is amazing, and I appreciate it.
Oh, I thank you. I do appreciate that. It was like I said before, it was such a big part of my childhood, and I had such fond memories. And I just wanted to kind of, I thought, if I could just give a little bit of that back, what I grew up with, then to me that would have been very rewarding. Another thing that's been rewarding, I mentioned having those guests on Chiller Chat. Mm-hmm. And like I said, this to me, like this guy, the Masked Superstar, Bill Eadie, you might know him as, or some of the younger viewers might know him as Axe of Demolition.
Yep.
But I watched Georgia Championship Wrestling every Saturday on TBS.
605.
What's that?
605.
605. Yeah.
Yep.
Watch that, and then later on that night it was Chiller Theater. So those two things really stuck with me. And then I actually did for some time, for several years, a professional wrestling program that aired out of Erie's NBC affiliate station, WICU. It was called Dark Horse Championship Wrestling. And it was a weekly show that ran for almost 2 years, studio wrestling, that was so much fun, but that was expensive. You were talking about shoestring budgets. That's something I couldn't do on a shoestring budget. I wish I could have, but that was I had to get major, like sponsorships, and a lot of money went into that. I mean, it was very expensive. But most of the money, even when I was doing the Chiller stuff, was more with Chiller Chat. It's actually pay various guests, I mean, for their time, and effort to because they might have traveled to be on the show, or just taking up their time. But it's all been a great experience. I've had a lot of fun, and I give my wife a lot of credit. She's been very super supportive. We met in one of my haunted houses back in 2007. And she's been with me all along, whether, it be the haunted houses or the Chiller shows. And even wrestling. She doesn't like wrestling, but she loves when I'm taping the shows, or when I was taping the shows, because she I don't know, she just saw how fun it was. You know, everybody was having such a great time.
My wife's the same way. I have some friends that used to run a wrestling organization locally, and she'd occasionally go with us, and she'd be down there watching it, just hanging out with us all, and watching us get all excited. And she'd be like, "You guys are weird, but this is fun." I was like, "There's nothing like live wrestling. It's a beast unto itself. It's so much fun."
Yeah. Speaking of live, like I would love to have, I would love, like, if I get that back up and running, I would love for it to be live, like a live show, not just pre-taped. But another thing, like I've been doing is more and more of for the last several years is live Children's Night theaters, and Jack Shadow interacting with the viewers now during the online version of the show. And it was like during the bumpers, you would say you were watching a live unedited version of the show. You are literally the online studio audience, the virtual studio audience. You're going to see glitches, mistakes. You're here for the taping of the show, and that was really well received. I had so much fun with it. I have so much fun. The last one I did was last week.
That's cool.
Yeah, and it was kind of cool because I set up a little crystal ball where Jack will say, give his little dialogue, as to what we just saw in the movie, and then like, let's see now what you children maniacs are up to, looking in the crystal ball, and it's kind of cool. It can be communicating live with the viewers. So that's always fun. Then I edit the show and send it to Stream TV, and it'll, play the next week as a nice packaged episode.
That's cool. Anytime anybody does the live stuff, that's really good, because I have people asking me to do a live show. I'm like, logistically, I don't know if I can. I was like,
well, I don't know. It is fun. There's it's harder. It's more pressure. Obviously there's if you get it the way you want it, you don't want a second take. You want to do everything almost as if you're on stage. It's you got the audience sitting there looking at you, expecting a show. And so I like that, though. I like that pressure. I guess that gives me more of a thrill, and it gives the show a little bit more of a pulse, and that's the way I look at it. It's a little bit more thrilling for me. Plus, if I was a viewer watching this, come on, I would be, I don't know, I think that it would be much more interesting that way, to watch the horror host and watch it live,
that'd be really cool. I kind of do, I don't do that, but I don't know if you do it, but when your episode drops on YouTube, do you ever just like get into when it's airing, be chatting with people and stuff like that as the episode airs?
Yeah. It's actually, when we're doing the live shows, as the movies, being played, this is now what I do. Let me back it up a little bit for viewers who might not understand what I'm talking about. When I say I'm doing the live show, what happens is I'll run it through OBS. I've got this running. I'll do the opening credits, and then the bad part is they see Jack standing there with the the mouse, and I have to start everything up, and then I do my thing, and then it goes to the movie. Now, when it goes to the movie, I sit here and I'm chatting with the viewers, like behind the scenes as the movie's playing. So everything's live, all the comments and the chatting. So, and that's a lot of fun because then I can bring up something that somebody said when I go live next.
Yeah.
And so
I have a full week from point A to point B, so sometimes I'll forget. What's real bad is if I remember what they said but can't remember who said it, and then I feel bad. But I'm like, I'm sorry, this is somebody said this, and I should.
yeah, there's been a lot of fun. I've done Chiller Chat that way too. The Chiller, the talk show. I've done that live. When COVID's hit, that's when most of my stuff did go live. I didn't do it because of that. I mean, that certainly pushed it in that direction, but I had always wanted it to be live regardless. And that just kind of, like I said, it kind of pushed it. But one of the things I wanted to show is kind of, I didn't think people would want to sit here and look at me the whole time and be all that captivated. But what I did do, because they probably wanted to see Jack Shadow, but I wanted to at least show, this was something from a guest I had on Chiller Chat named Phil Wilson. He's an artist. He worked on the Creep Show, you know, the animation from the Creep Show. And one of the things he did, and then Greg Nicotero started the Creep Show series back up. This was one of the sketches that he had done for one of the nighttime scenes for the neighborhood. You know, this is before it was all painted up, but he gave me a copy of that. But these are actual animation cells.
Oh yeah.
From this one's from Creep Show 2, the Creep, of course.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, a little show and tell minute here. I love these things. These are so, to me, these are so cool. There's the rhino bully kid from Creep Show 1, the kid who gets eaten by the
Venus flytrap. Yeah.
There's that one, and then here's another one of him. But Phil, he and Rick Catazone was one of my art instructors when I was at the Art Institute Pittsburgh. Both of them worked. There's others as well worked on Creep Show, the animation. But I love that animation style too that they did for that movie. And here's another one of the kids. Actually, that gets layered with this one here with the plant eating monsters before they get eaten. Fix that. But I wanted to show those. I love stuff like that because these are actually gifts from one of my guests, just like the Masked Superstar gave me a mask, but I love stuff like this. And to me, this stuff is so valuable for being such a horror fan to have stuff like this in my collection. So I just kind of wanted to share that with you guys.
It's pretty neat stuff there.
Oh, here's a painting. This is one of the viewers gave me this. It's a painting of Bill Cardell. I was talking about my horror host. You can see some reflection there, but this is a painting by Phil Wilson, the same guy who gave me those animation cells.
Wow.
So that's kind of cool. I just love stuff like that.
That's amazingly cool. I have kind of stuff like that. I was one of my good friends did I love G.I. Joe nerd from when I was a little kid.
Yeah. I used to watch that all the time.
He did the 2000s G.I. Joe comic book, and I have 38 pages of original artwork from a G.I. Joe comic book, and
that's cool.
Yeah, it's some of it's framed up at my shop, and some of it's just actually put away because I'm like, I don't know where I'm gonna put all this, but it looks neat when it's hung up. So
yeah. No, I know. My little studio office here has got very limited space, so I don't really have a place to hang everything. I had that picture hung up, but I just don't have enough wall space to put everything that that I would like to have up.
Oh yeah. So, luckily, I've got this whole thing down here, which I'm getting ready to redo again. So, I got another question for you. What advice do you have for upcoming horror hosts? Maybe like finding their character and things like that.
I guess I'd start with, why do you want to do it? What's making you do that? Is it you're inspired by a horror host that you grew up with and you want to share that experience with with the other viewers. If that is the case, then find whatever is causing that love and pour that into the character. I mean, some people, I guess that's going to be a lot of it. Why are you doing it to begin with? Why, if you're on there to get, make money or get views, that might not necessarily be the end all be all reason. Because I certainly don't make anything from this, except for, the few occasions where I'm getting sponsorship or something like that, or merchandise, but it's not about that. It's just because of my love for horror. If that's your reason, then make that character. What do you want to see in that character? What's horror mean to you? I mean, to me, it was like that Jack Shadow character kind of encapsulated everything that I love about horror. He was, his background is he's I'm sitting right outside his castle, actually, in the dark domain. Is his land of Halloween, and I love horror, Halloween, and of course the horror host. So I took all that stuff, like what do I want this character to be? And if you don't know that, I guess that'd be my first thing. What do you want to do it for? What's causing you to want to do this? If you just love old horror movies and you just want to make fun of them and have a lot of fun, that's something too. You might want to be, that character might be more of a clown character, or maybe an Elvira. I don't know, but I think the reason you're doing it is going to really be a determining factor of developing your character.
Yeah. I've talked to people, and they've given the same advice that I've heard wrestlers give when people get the wrestlers' characters, is find something about your person and then turn it up to 11. So you're an exaggerated version of yourself. So
yeah, well, that's good advice. Yeah, that's real good advice. Yeah, you don't want to play something. I remember Bill Eadie. I was talking about him, the Masked Superstar. He has said before in various interviews, like, he's been asked to go to a territory back in the territory days. I don't know if young viewers would know what that means. Younger viewers, back in the old days of the territories, when you go in and the promoter would say, okay, I want you to do a cowboy character or something. And no, I don't have any inclination to do that. That's going to come off as so unnatural for me, and I but the Masked Superstar, oh my gosh. Now, that was before. I didn't really watch it back when he was doing acts. I'm obviously aware of that character, but when I was growing up watching wrestling in the 70s and early 80s, that was such a, my gosh, you could rarely find a better heel than that, because he could do everything in the ring. Big, strong, imposing looking guy, but he also had that command presence on the mic, to do those promos. Boy, you really hung on everything he was saying, because he wasn't out there shouting and screaming. He was very articulate in what he was doing. And now, if he was playing a character that like a cowboy character or something, that he didn't want to do or wasn't part of him, then he wouldn't have stood out. And I wouldn't be talking about him all these years later,
Oh yeah. Well, it's like looking at some of these early wrestlers and seeing their early incarnations of these characters before they were able to do. I mean, they had Bret Hart was Cowboy Bret Hart at one point.
Stone Cold Steve Austin, the Hollywood
Blonde
looking character,
and then the Ringmaster. So back when he was with Flying Brian Pillman. So
yeah, that's it. I like that. I like how you just put it. Find your character, and that quality, and shoot it up to like 11.
It's funny because, like I said, I've talked to you, and you like, Jack Shadow has the full makeup, stuff like that. I have other ones that are like, man, he goes, that's the one thing I regret is doing the face paint and I laugh. I go, well, I was like, I got lazy when I made my character for my Saturday morning show. It's literally me with a bathrobe on. That is my character. That's me first thing in the
But that
morning.
makes sense though. You say it's Saturday morning, right?
Yeah.
Like a Saturday morning card. Perfect.
Yep, that's what I do. Saturday morning,
Yeah.
I was like, occasionally, I guess if you pan back, I'm wearing pajama pants. That's about the only extent.
Well, I've started just to keep more content going. I have been appearing as guest host for Jack Shadow, standing in for Jack Shadow, to crank out more content, because quite frankly, I've got so much going on right now that for me to, and Jack is a lot more, I personally speak a lot less eloquent, in delivering the dialogue than Jack Shadow would. He's I think that's one of the reasons that the fans like him, is his ability to deliver, the delivery.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
With me, I'm just on here basically talking like I'm talking to you, or my, with the viewers, like I do with the Saturday night pre-show, and I let them know, as guest host, this is more of a combination of a watch party and my pre-show. I'm not trying to imitate Jack Shadow. So I've got my own style for that. But that, I'm wearing a tuxedo. I'm kind of donned in the attire of Chili Billy. That's what he wore. It was a tuxedo. He didn't get in any costume. Bill Cardell. All those years, he wasn't a character, or he just was Chili Billy in a tuxedo. So I put on the tuxedo at a tribute homage to Chiller Theater and Chili Billy when I stand in as guest host. But I've been doing that more and more recently, because it's just been difficult to try to keep up with all that. The mask that I have, this is one of the masks. But see, I sculpted this and run the foam latex, so it's a soft, stretchable material painted up. But this is the type of mask that I wear when I'm playing that character. Of course, you do the makeup underneath, the contact lenses, and then you got to layer on the costume itself. So it's just involved, and there's a lot of time that goes into preparing the show, where if I can do the show like as myself, it's just a lot less preparation.
A lot less work. Now, do you do the convention circuits? Are you out there hitting it hard, or are you one of the people that just kind of stays in your?
I've gone to a couple events that I've been invited to, but other than that, I can't say that I really hit those hard. Well, back when I first started, I was a little more eager to get out there and do that. Now it's not so much. I get invited to go to certain events, and or to show up as Jack Shadow somewhere, and I do that. I do that a little bit less these days. Over the last couple of years, I'm not in a big hurry to throw the costume on and go somewhere, or now I went to this event called Gross Fest a couple of years ago. It's been canceled, and now they're reviving it because of the COVID restrictions that they've had. But I said, I'm not going to sit there all day. I don't want to sit there all day in that costume. But what I will do is I'll do half the day as Bryan Hogue, host a Chiller Chat, and then I'll do the second half of the day as Jack Shadow. So sometimes I might compromise like that, but I don't really hit those conventions real hard and heavy, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, because like I said, some people they're out there, and I'm like, I don't know how you do it, because there's people doing shows and at conventions. I'm like, that's a lot of work. I mean, I do comic book stuff and stuff like that, and I've gone way down on even doing those, because I have to get up early, got to get my stuff packed up, got to get everything ready, got to go out for the day, get my son who helps me. We go set up the show, we do the show, we come home, we eat, and it's like, now I'm like, I do that like 5 times a year, I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah,
And I stay local.
Yeah, you're right. That is a lot. There's a lot to it. They're doing an event here on May 1st. It's a Gross Fest halfway to Halloween event that they're doing on May 1st, and I'm going to that, but I'm not going as Jack Shadow. I'll be going just as me, and I'm sitting at a table with some friends of mine who are independent filmmakers from that are going to have a table. And I said, hey, they said, hey, do you want to sit with us? Because I said, I'm not even wanting to take stuff down and sell it or nothing. I just kind of want to see everybody again. It's been a couple of years, so I'm just going to kind of wander around and make my rounds. But other than that, I don't really like you just got done saying, it's a lot to it to pack up everything and to take and set the thing up. And then I'm just going to go say hi. Let people know I'm still here.
I just did a Horror Hound convention recently, and I just went just to go shop and buy stuff. And I had people who are like, oh, you got a table? No, I'm just here to have fun and get stuff and hang out with some friends and stuff. And I'm like, I don't want to have to set up. So it's kind of nice not having to do that. Now I got to get, where can we see you? Where are you at on
you can see a lot of the programming right on my Chiller Night YouTube channel. Chiller Night YouTube channel. And used to be called Chiller Night Theater as the YouTube channel. And then I thought, there's a lot more content than just Chiller Night Theater. So like my pre-shows on Saturday nights, Chiller Chats, and Chiller Night Theater. So it's a Chiller Night YouTube channel. And also the program every Saturday night, beginning at 9 p.m. Eastern time. Let me put up the streammedia.tv. Can you see that?
Yeah, it's right behind your name, though. There we go.
All right, streammedia.tv. That's where you can see the programming every Saturday night, beginning at 9 p.m. Eastern time, and that runs until I used to do Chiller Night. The guys from Stream TV, the station manager, he said every night I want you to have a bracket of TV time. That's from 9 p.m. until like 3:30 in the morning. So I'd run Chiller Night Theater, Chiller Chat, Chiller Night Theater, Chiller Chat, Chiller Night Theater. But now I'm just running this year. I've just been running Chiller Night Theater episodes until pretty much back to back. There might be a few minutes in between each show. But I've been running 4 episodes every Saturday night, beginning at 9. So, and that's where you can find it right there. You can go to that site, and they used to have a Roku channel. Their Roku channel is not up at this time, Stream TV. But if you go there, you can watch you can click on Watch Live at the top of the page, and that's how you can see the programming. Yeah,
because I guess that's an issue right now. I was watching like Monster Channel, so I was watching some other horror hosts, and a while back I hadn't watched any on the actual Monster Channel, and then I went to let it run, and it would only load like 25%, and I guess it's an issue with Roku getting rid of independent channels.
Oh,
so that's what I was told. Don't quote me on it, but that's what I heard, is that it's cutting back on the independent channels. So
yeah. I didn't know that, but that's something. Well, I'm hoping soon. In fact, I was just talking to this TV station just the other day about this. I want to set it so I can do the shows live, like on Saturday night at 9 p.m. Like I'm in the studio doing the show live, but it's also online, like a local TV station, but it's also online. And that's something that I would love to get up and running fairly soon. So I'll let you know if that happens. That's my goal.
Post it up. Yeah. All right. Well, like I said, I do appreciate you coming on here. Is there anything else that you'd like to tell us about? Maybe some, upcoming episodes or events that you have going on or anything like that?
Well, we just had a new episode last night for last night's programming. So I'm keeping up on, on new content. You can actually see that on the Chiller Night. I'll put the logo back up there again because it's just Chiller Night. I kind of combined that with Chiller Theater and Fright Night, Chiller Night. That's where I came up with the name. But Chiller Night YouTube channel, you can watch that. You can check it out on Facebook. I got a Facebook page for Chiller Night Theater, and you can always keep up with the whatever I'm doing on Facebook. That's probably one of the best ways to do it. I will say this: my website is transitioning from Chiller Night Theater to chillernight.com, and so it is not up and running right now. I'm in the process of building it, and because I'm technically challenged in many ways, it's taking me a little longer than I'd hoped, but that will be up and running, chillernight.com. And again, if you want to contact me on Facebook or Chiller Night Theater's Facebook page, you can do that.
And I will put your information up at the end of the episode, so people not only there, they can find it there too. But like I said, I appreciate you coming on here. I don't want to use up any more of your time here.
You're good. No, thank you. I appreciate you having me on your show.
Yeah,
thank you.
And thank you for being on the show. It's fun. I've been having a blast because, like I said, horror host fan, and now I'm getting to know these horror hosts and getting to talk to them and stuff like that, and getting to know where their love for the genre came from. And this has been fun, and every one of them's been a learning experience, and I don't think that's going to stop. So,
you know what, I'd like to say this real quick. What I like about your show, what I've seen of it is, and through today, it's real. It's just real, from everyday things that go on in the background or whatever. Yep. That's something that everybody can relate to.
Oh yeah.
So I encourage you to keep that up, because that is something everybody watching here can relate to, and you're on a very real personal level. Yeah. And it makes these conversations go very smoothly, and in my opinion, much more interesting if you want it to know what the person is really like and what they're really thinking. Yeah, because I appreciate that.
I thank you. That's kind of what we went with. It's we were going to have like a I was going to make like a thing to go back behind here and stuff like that, and I'm like, but that's not really me, and I'm coming at people. I guess not coming at people, but I'm talking to people as a fan and as somebody who's genuinely interested in. And I think sometimes some of these shows, like I don't, my mic is down here. You don't even see my mic. And, you get the shows where they got the big mic in the scene and stuff like that. I was like, it kind of comes off as, I wouldn't say fake, but staged, I guess. And I think that takes away from the personal interaction of it. You know what I mean? Because that puts something between you and your guest.
You asked me earlier, and this is circling back to that the question you'd asked me earlier, what advice to give to a horror upcoming horror host if they were interested. And you and I were talking about just be yourself, and then up that. Okay. You said you're coming at it as a fan. Well, what would their background look like? Exactly what you have. Yeah. That's who you are, and that's what we would expect to see. So there's the answer to any of the upcoming horror hosts, or if you have an interest in doing a podcast show, for example, like what you're doing there, Paul, is be yourself. Yep. And let that reflect in your background too, as well.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, see my dogs being crazy. Well, one dog. I'm not gonna lie, that's gonna get edited out. She's hyper today, and I don't know why. But like I said, I do appreciate it. I thank you very much. I will post. This episode will not drop Monday, but the following Monday. So okay. I keep a week ahead. And I'm doing another episode tonight so I can get ahead. And I took a week off because I was I'm not gonna lie, I was burnt out.
All right, sounds good.
So yeah, but I appreciate it and thank you very much. And I will get a hold of you and tell you when. I'll drop you a line. It says when it's going to come out. Okay.
All right, sounds good. Thank
All
you,
right.
Paul.
Well, take care, sir.
All right, you too. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, we'd love to thank Bryan for coming on today's episode. You can find chillertheater.com. You check him out on YouTube. You will see him as his other incarnation, Jack Shadows. As always, this episode of Group Therapy Podcast is brought to you by RU Game, the best comic book collectible all-around geek shop located at 124 North Sunset Drive, Pickle, Ohio 45356. And the Group Therapy TV podcast and Sci Fridays and Saturday morning serials. So you can get your fix for 10 hours a day from this guy. So take care. I'll see you there and have a good day. Later.